Good morning, podcasters. Has anyone ever actually promoted it on reality records? Today, we're talking about organizing your podcast. What's happening, you beautiful podcasters? Welcome to Good Morning Podcasters. I am Fuzz Martin, your host. I also have the flu, so if it sounds like I have the flu, it's because I have the flu. I saw a question on Reddit, which comes up a lot, about how podcasters organize their show and their guests and whatnot. So I thought I'd talk about some of the tools that are available and how I organize my show. Well, shows. I actually have 3, but I use basically the same process for managing all 3. Having a podcast means keeping track of a lot of things. You have to keep track of your guests, your show topics, your show notes, maybe scripts if you have a scripted show, research articles, audio files, logos and other branding elements and design files, audio tracks, maybe sound effects, processing settings, so many different things. And there are a number of organizational tools out there that will help you keep track of all those things, or at least most of those things. And you don't have to pay a bunch for them either, though you can if you want to, of course. But for some of these, you can get away with the free version if you're a solo podcaster, or maybe it's 1 or 2 of you podcasting. Some of the good organizational tools out there, or project management tools, which can be used for organizing your show, include Asana, Google Drive, Monday.com, Trello, Basecamp, though I don't believe they have a free tier, and SmartSheet, which also doesn't have a free tier. Plus, there are a whole bunch of other apps out there. There's writer's room apps. There's different things like that. Each of these tools allows you to organize information in their own sort of way. Some have similar features. Some are much different than the others. It's all a matter of your style and the needs of your show and how your brain works, really. So what do I do and what do I use? Well, my main hub for all of my shows is Trello. Trello is a Kanban-style digital organization board. So Kanban is a manufacturing management system. It relies on cards, kind of like digital sticky notes, or in some cases, actual physical cards or sticky notes that are set into different columns, which happen to be a stage of the process. And you move a card from the beginning of the process to the end along the way, and you can see what stage of a project each card is currently in. The great part about Trello is that you can make however many columns you want or need, and then you can add as many cards underneath those columns as you need. So for my show, in my Trello board for Good Morning Podcasters, I have these columns. On the far left, I have one called Incoming. That's where I write down any to-do item that I can think of. Any sort of thing that comes to mind, I immediately put it into Incoming so I can get my thought down, and then I worry about organizing where it goes later. Then I have 3 columns where most of the business gets done. The first column is called This Week's Good Morning Podcasters Episodes. You may have seen screenshots of this on my Twitter feed or on my Instagram feed. In this column, I only keep the 3 episodes that I'm going to publish this coming week. So I have Monday, Wednesday, and Friday's episodes right in there so I can stay organized and know what is coming up. To the right of that, I have a column called Next Week, which is obviously next week's shows, but it's kind of a tentative list of ideas for next week's shows. Those get moved around a lot, and sometimes they don't make them into this week's shows, but that's kind of my staging area of I'm doing these 3 this week, and then next week I'm going to do this, and I can kind of see what they all look like next to each other. After that, it's a column called Topics, and this is a full brain dump of any sort of topic that I might want to cover on this show. So I currently have 186 cards in that column. Some are absolute garbage. Some are great. It's brainstorming. So I put it all down there because it might spark another thought. But the cool part about Trello, or one of the many cool parts about Trello, is that it is really easy to grab a card and drag it to the top. So let's say I have an idea that I want to bring to the next episode, or I'm like, this is a really good one, I should talk about this, or this is topical right now. I can drag it to the top, and then it's there for me to see. Also, when I drop a new idea into my incoming column, I will then drag it into the kind of level of importance in that topics column to say, like, okay, this is an important topic that I need to get to soon, or maybe I'll just put it in there for later, like this is something I can talk about down the road. If it's very important or very topical, I keep it at the top, or I might even drop it into my next week column. And if it's something I'd like to cover later or when I'm struggling for an idea, then I drop it down to the middle or the bottom of that stack. The fifth column is called social posts, and this is really just a reminder of what posts I need to create for each episode. So it reminds me to post it on Twitter. It reminds me to create an Instagram story and to put it in my Instagram newsfeed. And also any other pieces that I might need to create for social are all in my social posts column. To the right of that is my done column. I drag topic cards that are completed into that column so I can easily reference them instead of having to scroll through my RSS feed. I can just either search through that or just scroll down and look through. Then the next set of columns are for branding and marketing purposes. So I have a resources column that contains a card called Colors, which holds the Good Morning Podcasters brand colors, the hex codes, the RGB codes, CMYK, etc. It has my logo files in Photoshop format, in PNG and JPEG, and in different sizes and such. I have my headshot and Jeff Townsend's headshot in case the journalist or another podcast asks for them. I need to put mine and Jeff's standard bios in there as well so that I don't need to rewrite those anytime we get asked for them. But that's a good best practice for you from a PR standpoint, is to always have that kind of stuff on file and ready to go. Then I've got a column called Parking Lot. This is ideas that I have for the show that might be useful in the future, but are on hold for now. Maybe they're too ambitious. I don't have time for them, or they'll take more work to put in, or maybe want to wait and see if that's something that I want to do. And I have my sponsors column. That includes information about show sponsors, potential sponsors, those kind of things, contact information, whatever we've negotiated is in there so that I know, and then I can mark off. I've got a little inside a Trello card. You can drop a checklist and then check it off as you go. So let's say I have 4 sponsored pre-rolls. I can check those off as I complete them, and then I know when that's done or if I still have more to do. And that's it. Those are my Trello columns. I also make good use of Trello's label system. I like Trello's labels because they have a colorblind mode, and I'm quite colorblind. Their colorblind mode uses patterns on top of the colors to make it better stand out from one another. More apps should adopt this. So for labels, I have marketing, public relations, social media, advertising, general podcasting. I've got one for Podcasting Sucks episodes. I've got one that says sponsored, so I know when I have a sponsored episode. I have done, and I have show stuff. I label each topic card with its overall theme, whether that's marketing, advertising, PR, social media, or general podcasting, so that I can easily look at a glance and make sure that I have a good mix of different types of topics throughout the week, and I'm not just heavy on one theme. It's real easy to do a whole bunch of social media posts because there's always so much news out there about that, and I like to spread that out. I have a done label, as you heard, because it feels good to mark something as done, and then I drag it into the done column. And it's really more for a dopamine spike than for actual organization. And that's really the gist of how I organize Good Morning Podcasters. In my real life work world, I use some of the other Trello features like team tagging, so I can tag people and assign them different tasks, which you could certainly do if you have a co-host on your show, or maybe you're working with a producer. Real easy way to say who's responsible for which thing. And that's all included within Trello. And at Epic Creative, we also have it tied into our website with Zapier, an automation software, which, by the way, it's pronounced Zapier. I know it's written like Zapier, and a lot of people get it wrong because of that single P. But I reached out to Zapier, and they told me, in quotes, Zapier makes you happier, which is much better than you get the idea. Trello also has some of its own automations. There's a feature called Butler, and a whole bunch of other power-ups that you can explore, and you can tie them into all sorts of different things like scheduling software and things like Google Calendar, things like that. And again, the other apps like Asana and Monday, they all have really good features that might make sense for you and your show setup, but I just wanted to explain to you how I do it. Your mileage, as they say, may vary. And with that, I'm going to drop this episode in the done column and call it a show. Thanks for dealing with my voice, and thanks for listening to Good Morning Podcasters. You can catch every episode at goodmorningpod.com. Please consider following the show in your pod player that you most prefer. As you know very well, because you're a podcaster, all you have to do is click that follow button, Click the bell if you want notifications, and watch for this show to come out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm also hoping to have an episode of Podcasting Sucks with Jeff Townsend out soon. Those come out on Saturday mornings, but we'll see where the world takes us. Otherwise, have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you Monday right here on Good Morning Podcasters.